If the communist leader, Mao Zedong, is correct that political power grows out of the barrel of a gun, the gun controllers are an elite that is applying Mao's principle to wrest political power from we the people, here in the U.S. and the rest of the world. Their goal is to consolidate all arms and weapons under their sole authority by invalidating and destroying the right of the people to consolidate arms and weapons under their authority.
True globalists would like to see basically national governments and countries yield more and more power to transnational and global institutions. Their model for the world is the European Union, where the European countries yield up portions of their sovereignty to transnational institutions like the European Commission, and these transnational institutions are able to impose their agendas on individual countries. So I think this is the overall objective of the globalists, and of course in order to achieve that and to prevent a global government from being overthrown would require the disarmament of the citizens of individual countries.
This small but powerful international group is comprised of members of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, pundits in the New York mainstream media, liberal celebrities employed by the Hollywood-based MPAA studio distributors, corporate fascists in multinationals, bankers in the Federal Reserve System, IMF and BIS executives, neocons who have co-opted the GOP, United Nations supporters, Marxists infiltrating America's cultural institutions, and the U.S. military-industrial complex that serves the UN's global standing army, NATO.
The mood of this city is entirely behind the idea of globalization, the effect of which has been basically to deindustrialize a significant slice of America. We lost 6 million manufacturing jobs during the decade from 2000 to 2010 in 55,000 factories. If you want to know why the real wages of working Americans have not gone up in real terms since the 1970s, globalization is the reason.
This is what a globalist does, consciously or unconsciously, directly and indirectly, in order to facilitate their one-world government, often called the New World Order.
George H.W. Bush, President George H.W. Bush, used the term at the United Nations in 1991, and he used it basically to describe a world in which the United States and Great Britain and the Western nations would take the lead in basically establishing a world order after the Cold War was over. But that is different than some ideas of the New World Order, say of Immanuel Kant and others whose idea is of global governance and a global government.
Now, it's not just any kind of a world government. If it were the kind of a world government that was based on the principles of individualism and freedom and respect for human rights and all the things that our original Constitution guaranteed to the American people, I think it'd be a wonderful thing. But that's not the kind of world government they're building in New York at the United Nations.
The big mega banks have said they want a planetary world bank that you pay carbon taxes to. And it's the big banks that are lobbying and funding Bloomberg and others to take our guns. In fact, many foreign banks. And so the world government's in our face, but the Southern Poverty Law Center comes out and says it doesn't exist, and you're a terrorist if you're a gun owner and believe in it.
There are many, many people who believe in global governance, and there are the basic rudimentary institutions of global government. The UN, the World Trade Organization, the International Criminal Court, the European Union is sort of a model of global government.
So that's what they're trying to build, and I suppose some of them think that it's in the best interest of society, but whether you agree or not, the fact is that if they succeed, you as an individual and I as individuals will not have the right to do anything without permission of the state. And we'll be totally regimented, and I think it'll be George Orwell's 1984 finally arrived.
The skeptic should at least acknowledge this. Since the Constitution guarantees a republican form of limited government and a free state, anyone who works against these principles has to be suspect.
The Constitution of the United States guarantees to all of the states a republican form of government. And inasmuch as the United States is made up solely of the states, and all of the states must have a republican form of government, it follows that the United States as a collective is a republican form of government. And the one thing that is outstanding in every one of them was every one of them had a militia, a state militia, formed and operated on essentially the exact same principle.